Today I am excited to talk to you about the cell membrane. If you recall, if you watched the last video, and if you didn't, I would suggest maybe you watch it from about 3 days ago. The last video we talked about the DNA and how all of our DNA, by all, I mean yours, mine, the whole human family is 99.9% identical. So that means we're all part of one human family, clearly. And we have more things alike than we do different. But we also talked about how the DNA, which is housed in the nucleus of the cells, and is contained in the genome in that nucleus, is actually controlled by the epigenome, which is the environment from outside the cell and sometimes from outside of the body that comes in and interacts with the DNA and switches some of the DNA on and some of it off, so that what we learned was that the epigenome controls the genome by telling it what to do, when to do it, and where to do it. So the epigenome is pretty powerful, and we want to learn more about that and how we can help control the epigenome to our best ability for our health and the health of those that come after us. So today, again, I want to talk about the cell membrane, and I want to introduce to you Dr. Bruce Lipton, or at least his work. I don't have him right here in my basement, but I want to introduce his work to you. He started out as a cell biologist, and as a cell biologist, I think mostly he was studying the nucleus of the cell with the DNA, as all other cell biologists, I think, at the time were doing. But as time went on, he started to get more and more fascinated with the membrane, the cell membrane of the cell, and wondered how it related to the nucleus and the whole body and all of that. So in 1985, where he was just becoming more and more enamored with the cell membrane and what its job was, he was studying it late into the night and early hours of the morning. And at the time he was sitting and he was creating a definition of the cell membrane. And here's what he started to write down. He said, a membrane is a liquid crystal semiconductor with receptors and channels. And then he thought about, no, another word for receptor is gate, like G-A-T-E. So he crossed out receptor and he said, a membrane is a liquid crystal semiconductor with gates and channels. And then right after he wrote it down, he said, gosh, that sounds familiar. I have read this somewhere else before. Now, where was that? And he thought, no, it is not in a biological context. What is it? And it was 1985, and he had just bought his first Apple computer. And he had gotten this manual with it. And he started looking at the manual, and sure enough, in that manual, this is what it said. It gave a definition of a chip, a computer chip, and it said, a chip is a crystal semiconductor with gates and channels. So that's where he got that definition from. And this was a big aha moment for him. So I want to talk a little bit about that and why he was so excited about that and how that led him to more and more research and where he is today. But we're not going to talk about where he is today right now. We're just going to talk about this first part. So let me just show here. Okay. So here we have a cell membrane, or cell, right? This is so sad. Okay, a cell is round, but this is a cell with some artistic license, right? Maybe its cell isn't quite round. I don't know. So here's a cell. Now, these little dips in here are places where the information comes in from the environment, right? And okay, over here, you see that? Over here is a computer. Got that? Over here is a computer. Okay. Both the cell and the computer have something, and this is where the big deal is. This is a keyboard if you're talking about the computer. But if you're talking about the cell, it is the receptor. There, receptors, okay? So maybe, let's see, let's put that over here. So the receptors bring information from the environment into the cell, in these little dips here. And if it were a keyboard, which they're both kind of the same in this analogy we're making, it brings the data into the computer. This computer would just sit here and collect dust if it weren't for the keyboard inputting data, telling the computer what to do, giving it instructions. Same thing here. The cell would not know what to do if the receptors didn't bring in information from the environment to tell the DNA what to do. You know, which parts of the DNA to switch on and which to switch off. So the big deal about this analogy is the computers and the cells are both programmable. The programmer lies outside of the computer and outside of the cell as well. Biological behavior and genetic activities are dynamically linked to information from the environment, which is downloaded into the cell. So the point is, a cell is a programmable chip whose behavior and genetic activity are primarily controlled by environmental signals, not genes. Not genes. So again, we remember that the epigenome, the environment outside of the nucleus, controls the DNA, controls the genome, telling it what to do, when to do it, and where to do it. This is not to dismiss the remarkability of the DNA in our systems that has accumulated for billions of years. But again, who or what controls the operation of the cell? It is the membrane, the gates and the channels. And part of what it does is it lets the nutrients in to the cells and takes the waste products out. And basically, that is what I wanted to share with you today. And we'll talk more later on, not too much later on. And again, to remind you that your DNA is not your destiny, and that is the name of the class that I will be starting to teach on Thursday evenings starting September 3rd for 8 weeks. And if you need more information about that, you can click on the link, I believe it's below, and get more information on this online class. Also, my name is Darcy Lewis, and I am from the Connected Learning Center. This class, the syllabus, the curriculum is from the International College of Professional Kinesiology Practice, housed in New Zealand. And it was created by Dr. Bruce and Joan Dew in New Zealand. I am certified to teach it. If you think you might want to be certified to teach it, there is a process. It's relatively painless. It's quite easy. And so take the class and see if you might want to share this information yourself. Okay? So take care and be well.